Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining for week 3 of the Academy. I was telling Kelly this morning, I don't know how it's always a Tuesday again, but here we are to talk more safe routes to school. So really appreciate your time. And we're going to go through today's content. If you ever have questions, you can come off mute, put it in the chat, and we will talk through it. So just again, a reminder of what the topics we cover in this academy today. We're going to talk all about education. And we're really excited about that. And if you, there might be some new things that maybe you haven't learned from the last time we talked about it. So little carrot there for you to stay engaged. All right, today's agenda, again, we're going to do introductions in the chat. If you want to put, again, your name, where you're coming from, organization or county, school district, that sort of thing. And to the previous conversation, are you a coffee, a tea, or a cocoa drinker? Put that in the chat. We'll welcome you as we begin the conversation. And then we'll have a local highlight story and call to action. As we begin every academy, hopefully now you're starting to see the repetition or the structure of this, but we're going to chat through the call to action. This is just going to be a large group reflection. We will have a breakout room later on this morning. But if anyone wants to come off mute, again, the call to action, there was 2 of them. First of it was the equity scorecard, reflecting on what your equity in your community looks like. You may be familiar with that with all of your work. It may be a new conversation to you. So was there anything reflecting wise? And then equity and planning guide. It's a big guide. If you're not doing planning, you might be like, Sophie, Kelly, why are you making me read this right now? But there might be a big takeaway from there. And if you had anything from that to reflect, to share back for you all. So I'm going to take a few minutes and see if any of you will come off mute this morning and share anything you learned from the call to action. Yeah, Carrie.
Hey everybody, I'm Carrie. I'm a fellow MnDOTer in sustainability and public health. So a different office, but super excited to be learning more about this program. I found reading about my particular community and seeing their equity scorecard was super, super interesting. So I live in Minneapolis in the Bryn Mawr neighborhood. And we have Bryn Mawr Elementary School and the Onwatton Middle School just down the street from where I live. And the other week I actually learned for the first time that both schools are enrolled in the Safe Routes to School planning program. So it sounds like that plan is to be completed this school year, which is super exciting to learn about. But yeah, it was really interesting to meet for me to reflect on the equity scorecard. So both schools did have a 5, which was a bit surprising to me. But it really made me reflect on kind of the unique area location that Bryn Mawr is located in. Bryn Mawr, the neighborhood itself, is predominantly a white population, kind of higher income homes, but we're kind of right splat in the middle of a lot of other neighborhoods. Just south of us is like Cedar Lake, Lake of the Isles, but then directly north of us is Harrison neighborhood and near North. So it made a lot of sense to me why, our school populations have higher priority population concentrations. But it was really fascinating to learn about. And so I appreciated the activity.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else have any reflections? Looking for one more person.
I guess I could share this as Luke.
Yeah.
So this is for the equity scorecard. I would say I do like the tool. I know in the past when we've done applications, for safe routes to school, um, whether it's for infrastructure and or just the planning assistance, we sometimes like with the score and with feedback from a MnDOT, we sometimes are curious as to why it may like sometimes it's like a make or break, or it has been a make or break with maybe receiving the funding. Um, so it just kind of comes down to where we feel like these are things that we cannot fully control, if that makes sense, with
Mm-hmm.
why the score is the way the score is. Um, and maybe this was already discussed at one point, but with this tool being put together, did MnDOT or whoever, it was that put the tool together, like did they physically come to the community or did they use like GIS or some other format? I'm just curious because like these have been meetings that we've had with I can't remember all the names, but it like the folks who review the grants and stuff like that MnDOT. So I mean I'm a fan of the tool. I just know like when it comes to some of the scoring, it has been a make or break for some of our applications.
I'm going to pass that to Kelly to answer because she has more historical knowledge.
And if we
Yeah.
need to have a side like a separate meeting about it, we certainly can. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. I'm dropping the I'm just going to drop the link and the components of that score. So the reason we did this is as we added Equity E to our program and we started having some equity like questions of like, what's the demographics of your community and things like that. Our grant reviewers found it really hard to compare a community to a community just with like an equity narrative or one or two scores for equity. So what we wanted to do was create both like a subjective and non-subjective score related to equity. So using data points that schools have related to equity measures of students of color or American Indian, students are English language learners, eligible for free and reduced price lunch, special education services, or students experiencing homelessness or unhoused or shifting housing. And those school metrics help create the STEP score. There used to be other components of the STEP score that was tied to census data on like percentage of like adults commuting to work and crash data, but we learned over time that that isn't as relevant to the Safe Routes program for a myriad of reasons. So in the applications, it both has this like quantitative STEP score that is just gonna get people where they are, but there's always a qualitative like narrative question where you can say, yeah, our STEP score is 2, but we are hoping to connect this mobile home park with this school, and this mobile home park is predominantly students who are walking to Jefferson Elementary School. And that's definitely gonna hold a lot of weight with the grant reviewers when that explanation is provided when those STEP scores are low. So we do try to account for those instances. I'm trying to think what else.
Kelly, in the chat, there was a follow-up question about taking into account falling enrollment numbers. I guess I would answer it to that point. That could be in the narrative. So again, it's not those 5 factors that give you a 0 to 5, but you could explain that in that narrative of because of falling enrollment numbers or transportation gaps and so forth, you're proposing this project or this need.
And then infrastructure projects too, they also take into account geographic parity. So, with our infrastructure partners are trying to fund at least one project in each MnDOT district. So, sometimes we'll have maybe 12 applications for the metro region, but we certainly have instances in greater Minnesota and a MnDOT district where we have 2 or we only have 1 proposal. And because of that also goal of equity and geographic parity, oftentimes those projects will get bumped up.
Thanks for those questions, Luke. If you have any follow-up, you're also welcome to jump on the stay on later or jump on the office hours at noon and we can chat through it more. Alrighty, so today all of the things we get to talk about is education. So hopefully you're ready for it. Hopefully you're as excited about education as Kelly and I are. I will pass it to her and we will get going. If you have questions, again, raise your hand, come off mute, or put it in the chat and we will address those. Pass it to you, Kelly.
All right, so digging into the Education E, and I think this one is a great one for those of you who are starting out, maybe third week into this, you're a little like, I'm kind of overwhelmed, I still don't know where to start. The Education E is a really great starting point. Why? Because we're talking with school partners and their whole job is education. So it's a commonality. It's a comfortable conversation that they're willing to have. We also know with PE teachers, their budgets are really tight and they don't get a lot of new materials or equipment. So the opportunity to get loaner bikes and be able to take kids out on bikes is really exciting to our PE teachers. And we also have a free training for them. So there's lots of like little incentives. It's a great strategy when you have few kids who are able to walk and bike because of distance. So I'm thinking, you know, small towns, rural communities, consolidated school districts where, you know, elementary is in one town, middle school's in another, and a high school's in another. This Education E provides a good foundation for lifelong physical activity and a lifelong transportation mode that is more sustainable and more affordable. So we'll tell you a little bit more about the two education curriculums that we have, but I just wanted to highlight that from the top that this is a great starting strategy with your partners. It's an easier ask than talking about, you know, the roadway width and creating a 4-to-3 conversion or something like that. And it's a really fun one too to kind of be a part of. So hopefully we get you excited and enthusiastic and gonna get rolling on this in your community, pun intended. So lots of, you know, benefits of bike walk education. Most of you know this. These are compelling points to share with your partners. We're looking at that physical activity improvement. We're looking at the mode shift and reducing our carbon output. It's fun for kids. We hear from PE teachers all the time of students who never participate in class. They sit out, they are, you know, not engaged, but the bikes come out and they love it because it is more of an individual activity. It gives them that sense of freedom. It gives them a sense of independence as our middle schoolers aren't just learning how to ride a bike, but learning how to drive their bike to the places they need or want to go. And we also know that we've talked about before, you know, kids who move more, their brains are moving and grooving and ready to learn. So biking to and from school or biking while at school can be a great way to do that. And then also traffic crashes. You know, for those of us who are in public health or injury prevention, we talk a lot about wearing helmets, which is super important. But they're kind of like seatbelts. They're great. We want to see them. They don't prevent you from getting in a crash, but they help reduce the severity of a crash. So a helmet on a bike is great to reduce the severity of a crash, but it doesn't prevent a crash. That's where teaching safe bicycle driving skills is going to get us there. Next slide. So this is, and Sophie will drop the link, but we do have this infographic, which I think is really helpful just to kind of go over again that our education strategies can also benefit academic achievement and do fit within our goals at a school level of engaging kids and teaching them the lifelong skills that they need. The next slide, I believe, talks about our choices research, which we've mentioned before, but this was a research project with the Harvard School of Public Health. And we were looking at how many more minutes of physical activity does a Safe Routes to School type strategy bring? And that's 47 more active minutes a week for students. And that is a pretty significant jump for many strategies. You know, there's a lot of other strategies to get kids moving during the day, but if we want to see a really big increase in minutes, Safe Routes to School can certainly be a way to do that. Next slide gets into the whole school, whole community, whole child model that many of our school partners and SHIP partners are using. And it really gets into that physical education, physical activity, and health education components of the WISC model because that education, you know, is already what schools do. It is a way to just add a different content area in there. And it's applicable for all of our school partners in rural, suburban, urban communities. It's great for kids of all backgrounds, or charter or private schools. There's different ways to kind of implement this, whether it's practice-based and a school will implement it, or their curriculum director or school board officially adopt the type of curriculum. That's always great for a bigger PSE change. Or it could be something embedded into the school wellness policy just to help make sure that this education is sustained and becomes that tradition that that school has for their PE. Next slide. So there's a lot of different ways that education happens. And we know when you're talking with school partners, they might be really busy, or it's a new PE teacher and they're just not ready to take on a new curriculum, or it's, whatever it might be. We can certainly do our curriculums during PE class or health class. Some schools will do it as like an all-school assembly just to give everyone a 30-minute education around biking and helmets and all that fun stuff. Some others will incorporate it into like their science field trip where they're biking to a nature center to go explore nature, or they're biking to the public library to like learn about those services. So field trips can be another way to embed it. So if your PE teacher maybe is not ready for this, there are other ways to get it into the school through assemblies or field trips, but also your other community partners. This curriculum fits great. We have a lot of partners use it during summer school or school-age childcare type programs, Boys and Girls Club. We have some of the curriculum that's used by Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So think about all those partners that you have in your community and where could this be helpful? And maybe it's sharing with partners and seeing where it sticks. Next slide. All right, so getting into the first of our two curriculums is called Walk, Bike, Fun. Next slide. This curriculum has been around since I think like 2013. We started talking about it a little before then. So our Walk, Bike, Fun curriculum that we're going to talk about is a PE curriculum. It is an experiential curriculum. So this is getting outside, getting on bike, actually going out and crossing a street. So they're really building the skills by doing them. Later, we're going to talk about our On My Way curriculum, which is more of a passive curriculum that can be done quickly in class through videos or short lessons or take-home materials for parent and caregivers. We'll get there, but let's go back to Walk, Bike, Fun. The great things about this curriculum is that it does meet the Minnesota Department of Education standards for PE. So that is an easy win for us. When you're trying to sell this curriculum, it meets all the standards for PE classes. It is a curriculum that can be done in K through 8th grade. The walking components are more K through 3rd grade, and then biking is the older grades, but we have teachers who modify that and do it where it fits. To become trained in Walk, Bike, Fun, there's a part 1, which is an online 2-hour class. We also offer an in-person class, which is 6 to 7 hours. We provide sub-pay for the teachers so that there's no barriers in them attending, and they get CEU credits. So it's a couple different carrots to try and get our PE teachers there. But we do have teachers who are very competent. They pick up curriculum, learn it, and are able to implement in their classes all the time. So you certainly don't have to go through the formal training to teach it. However, at least the online portion I think is helpful. The in-person portion is most helpful in learning how to take 40, 30 kids on a bike ride together and kind of calming down some of the nerves or concern that might have. Once someone is trained in this curriculum, there is the opportunity where MnDOT has funded the Bicycle Alliance in Minnesota to have 3 bike fleets, which are shipped around the state to schools so that they can have a bike fleet for a week or 2 while this is part of their PE curriculum. And so that is really fun to get 40 bikes that kids can get out there and use in their classes and mix it up with other classes. And that is available year round. There certainly are other, bike fleets and things out there and ways to make bike fleets that aren't getting a grant. Sometimes it's repurposed bikes. Sometimes it's donated bikes, and we can certainly help you talk through acquiring a bike fleet if that's something of interest. Next slide. So we have this handout. This is kind of a nice and easy one pager of the lessons in the curriculum. So again, the walk lessons are for our little kinders to third graders, just talking about what are the signs out on the roadway? What is it to cross the street, looking left, right, left, finding the edge, making sure you're seeing cars, just understanding traffic flow. And then we get into the 8 lessons of the bike curriculum, which is more about learning how to check that your bike is safe, learning how to ride a bike, hand signals, stopping, and then learning how to drive your bike through a neighborhood ride, which is the culmination and the best part of the curriculum. Next slide. So this is just some of the PE standards that it meets, and that is more on the handouts. And if you go to walkbikefun.org, you can see a better display of these PE standards that are there. And it certainly also meets some national health standards that are out there. Next slide. Yeah, and so again, the neighborhood ride is the most fun and the things that kids are so excited about, but it really is that confidence builder. You can learn how to ride a bike. You can learn how to bike around your neighborhood because that's your zone of confidence. But going out with friends and going out with a teacher and trying new routes is incredibly empowering for students and a really fun piece of this. So in the curriculum and things like that, they also talk about liability that teachers or schools might have when taking kids off campus. So there are resources for that, as I know that's a common question. Next one. All right. So again, walk bike fun, experiential curriculum, really learning basic rules of traffic flow, basic rules of walking and biking, understanding hazards, those physical skills or how to ride your bike, stop it, all those kind of things, and getting that confidence to go out there and do it. For our teachers, it's a curriculum that already meets standards. It has lots of resources, training and technical assistance by the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, or they can reach out to Sophie or I for questions. And it is a curriculum that's been around in Minnesota for, well over a decade, with a lot of adaptations and changes that we have made that has been a reflection of the evaluation from actual Minnesota teachers. So we have a quick handout. I think we'll send out in the follow-up, but just showing that this curriculum has been taught around the state. This is an older graphic, so it certainly doesn't show all the cities or counties. We do have a list of all the training participants since 2013 that you can go through. Some of those teachers may have retired, they may have moved on to another school, but even if they're not there, you can go and use that to show that this school used to do this curriculum. How do we bring it back? And that's going to be an important conversation to have, especially post-COVID, when a lot of things kind of went by the wayside. Let's bring those traditions back to our school partners. And really what I want to say is, a lot of the feedback we get from teachers is they love the training, they love the curriculum, and they're excited to use it. Next slide. In addition to Walk Bike Fun, these two kind of the ambassador training and ambassador guide might be helpful. These are more for our outside school partners, public health, our law enforcement partners who want to do a bike rodeo, our Boys and Girls Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, any sort of after school program. This is more bite-sized activities or lessons or things that you can learn to support safe routes to school and active transportation in your community. So if you have a bicycle advisory group, or you have a bicycle pedestrian advocacy organization in your community, having them trained in the ambassadors Walk Bike Fun curriculum might be a really great way to help them provide education in a meaningful way in your community. Next slide.
I saw someone come off video, so I'm wondering, is there a question? Nope. Okay. I was like, oh, great. We could have a correct question during the presentation. Nice to see your face anyways.
And I think this is the last slide, and then we'll open it up for questions. But during COVID, we did create a distance learning curriculum for our Walk Bike Fun curriculum, just recognizing that PE teachers didn't have a lot of virtual learning resources. So this is a really fun curriculum to share with PE teachers as we're thinking about snow days or other days off. There is something available for them to use. And then we also know that many of our homeschool kids or homeschool like networks in communities also use this curriculum as a way to kind of bolster the walk bike education or PE that they do. Yeah. And so again, lots of great feedback that it's curriculum that teachers love. This is where I'm getting to. It's an easy selling point to schools. It's doing something that they do. It's a Minnesota-based curriculum, and we have lots of positive feedback about how students love it, teachers love it. So we piqued your interest and you're like, well, what do I do now? You can always reach out to our TA consultant, which is Angela at Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, to talk about next steps. She can help you set up a training if you want to host an educator training in your community. You don't have to fill the training. We will promote it and try and pull from other school districts. And you just simply have to give us a space where we can hold the training. It can be at a school or public health or an RDC, or we can create space in our MnDOT offices in Greater Minnesota. Or if you have a teacher who's trying to bring the curriculum back in, share that the bike fleet rental reservation form might be available. They are really focused on the curriculum, and we know that there's a lot of requests and support for like one-time activities like a bike rodeo or tabling at a safety day event. And we simply don't have enough resources to support all those. But in the next curriculum I'll talk about, we have a lot of education materials that can be provided for those type of events.
All right, Kelly, I'll let you drink your coffee for a second. Anyone have questions, reflections? Is this new to you? Were you familiar with this? Hoping 2 people can come off mute to share.
Sophie, I have a question about the traveling bike fleets.
Mm-hmm.
So, who, I guess, what is the procedure for who can apply to, who can apply to request those?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like teachers or, I guess that's my question.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me drop the link for where you can request the bike fleet. It's going to go to our partners at Bicycle Alliance in Minnesota. They will check their calendars to see if it's not already reserved. If it is something of interest, the earlier you can reserve it, the better, because they are heavily utilized. Teachers or educators that have gone through the Walk Bike Fun online training do get first preference for it. But if there's other like training or someone else has a background in teaching biking and walking, then we can certainly work with you. So I would say whoever's going to be the point person for where the bike fleet's going to be delivered would be a good person to request it. A teacher who's going to use it for in-bike education or in classroom education, or if an RDC is going to hold a bike rodeo and you want some bikes to be available for kids who don't have a bike, then RDC would be a good partner to do it. Does that help make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think, and I can reach out to the Bicycle Alliance too. I think I'm thinking specifically, like 4-H does after school, or like sometimes they do summer programs in
Yeah.
coordination with schools or with like their community education departments. So I
Yep.
could see maybe like a 4-H person would be interested, but they're not necessarily, they're not a teacher, but they work with the
Yeah.
school. So I think that was what I
Yeah.
was
And that's
thinking of, maybe reaching out to them.
That's perfect. And I try to use the term educator because we know educators are in many different places, right? And like what you're saying, a 4-H educator still has a good audience and purpose to teach these skills just as much as a PE teacher does. So that is certainly good. I will say, if they have classes or activities in the summer, there's certainly more availability for the bike fleets, but they can certainly squeeze them in during those other times too.
And what I've heard from folks that are trying to register, Kelly said earlier, the better. Generally, it's about a 4-month heads up of we would like this reservation. So as of now, it's going to be late spring, early summer. Just because the folks that do use it probably then get it on their calendar and repeat that. Does anyone else have any questions or reflection on Walk Bike Fun? Or have taken the training you want to share? One more person?
I'm happy to share my experience with utilizing the fleet.
Please do, Andy.
Awesome. So, Andy from Duluth, Minnesota here. Oh, camera's off. Let me. And we utilize the fleet in our district through community education, offering 3 free bike camps over the course of the summer of basically learn to ride. And it was a pretty slick process. I just put in that request. I did put them in, I think, like 6 months prior, so I didn't have any issues with the dates that I requested. There was one little hiccup. We had it booked for 2 different schools on 2 different weeks, and on Bike MN's calendar, they had it that it was in Duluth for just 2 weeks straight. They forgot that they needed to change location. They were very flexible, and they said that they could come up and move it, or if there is someone with the ability in the district, they gave us permission to move it to the location we needed. So pretty slick. And then we would always kind of do a quick inventory of the bikes, make sure the ones that needed to be utilized were all set and ready to go. And then we made sure to fill out that form. They just have like a quick survey and just let them know, hey, we did see some damaged bikes, just an FYI. We never had the issue of running out of bikes or having to try to fix an unusable bike. So the variety in there is pretty good. And the process, other than that one little hiccup, was really smooth. So I highly recommend it.
Thanks for sharing, Andy. We'll also note in their bike fleets too, if you need any of the adaptive bikes or different type of bike, they can also include those in the fleet to meet your community need. Alrighty, we're gonna go on to the next one. Thank you all for sharing. Kelly, it is back to you.
Sounds good. Okay, so the second curriculum I'm going to talk about is On My Way, which we've recently just finished and are launching out now. Next slide. So we're on where the Walk Bike Fun curriculum that we first talked about is more of getting kids outside and actually trying the activities. The On My Way curriculum is meant for more of a classroom or tabling or materials to send home with students or kind of safety tips to publish for events. So this all is part of the 2023 Active Transportation Education Mandate that the state of Minnesota passed, and it's where all students in public schools must receive age-appropriate education related to safe walking and bicycling. And the legislation is similar to the law that requires students to receive bus safety education at the beginning of each school year. So really what this mandate has done is just shifted that it's not just bus safety training, it's bus, walk, and bike safety training. Some schools are just packaging them all together, and some schools are kind of spreading it out as it fits within their curriculum. There is no longer a legislative deadline of requiring it to be done in the first 3 weeks of school. It can be accomplished at any point throughout the school year. Maybe it's an all-school assembly, maybe it's in the spring before students get out on their bikes. It's kind of up to the school's discretion to do that. Who is responsible to implement this? The legislation just says that the school district must implement this. So some places it's a homeroom teacher that actually does it, but the principal or superintendent oversees it. Maybe it's the school transportation director that goes out and does the education. It does just change by school, but the best way to ask about it is who does the bus safety training, and then how can we smush these together Or if there's like a homeroom or kind of like a general starting class, is this something that we can incorporate in this spring before kids get out on their bikes when the weather warms? All right, next slide.
The only other thing I would say is the name of this. You probably are like, why do we name it On My Way? Why do we have Walk Bike Fun? All these fun names. This one was with engagement with middle and high schoolers, kiddos, and they really liked the branding of it. There was a lot of conversation about that and their feedback. So the hope is that then when they hear this conversation, they have this training, it kind of resonates a little bit more with them than something maybe somebody from the government would think through as a name.
Thanks, Sophia. That's great. Yeah, the reason that this did take longer to get out is that we did so much youth engagement along the way on the logo, on the videos, actually using students to help create the voices for the videos. So we do have a lot of affirmation
buy-in,
from our
hopefully.
students. Yeah, that it's a good curriculum.
Yeah.
So kind of how the breakdown of these materials are is K through 3 really focusing on those pedestrian skills, and that's what's in the state legislative mandate. Grades 4 through 8 are more advanced pedestrian safety skills must be learned, and 4 through 8 is also to learn bicycle safety skills, including laws, proper helmet fit, bicycle parts, and safe bicycling techniques. To do this, we have a website with a suite of materials that we've created. So there's videos for each of those age groups that we talked about. They are all on a YouTube playlist. They are short, like a minute or 2 minutes. So great to use in class to start a discussion. Fantastic to use in your agency's social media platforms if you're looking for content that way. Great to put in upcoming newsletters. Lots of resources there. So there's an educators tab, which has lesson plans, has slides with exactly what you should say each slide, has some in-class activities that can be used. There's also caregiver resources. So these are letters home to parents or caregivers, how parents can help keep kids safe when they're walking and biking. So some education reinforcement that way. And then there's the administrators tab, which is going to help administrators know how to implement this curriculum. There's sample emails to all staff on what it is and how to do it, as well as blurbs that they can put into their newsletters and things like that. There's also promotional resources like some really fun stickers that can be printed and other things like that. So we'll drop Sophie already dropped the link for the website if you want to take a peek. These are what the videos look like. We have these fun little characters that our kids helped us develop. And this is in an effort to try and keep them evergreen so that these videos don't get too out of date, because these little creatures shouldn't age too poorly. But they are pretty fun, easy to watch, and short. This is an example of what the lesson plan looks like. So educator, student transportation director, a homeroom teacher can take a peek at it. Okay, this is the overview of what we're trying to teach, and here's what I do step by step by step. So this is more of a curriculum or materials that are created that doesn't require a training. It is something that can be handed out and asked of various adults to help educate and provide this. Another activity of kind of what can you do when these transportation challenges arise, to help students think through those barriers or things that they might experience and navigate those challenges before they happen. And that would be like another activity that you could have at a tabling event or a family day. There's also a walk audit guide. So taking students out on a walk, taking those 4-H kids out on a walk and exploring the built environment, or after school bike club. So that's a great way to kind of start to blend what does the built environment impact the way we move around our communities, and what are things we could do about it. So both at a personal level and as a community-wide level. And then this one's really helpful for those who are also partnering in their Towards Zero Deaths initiatives, which speed is a primary factor for many of the crashes. This is another way to talk about the impact that speed can have on students walking and biking and the dangers that it might present, to encourage parents, caregivers to slow down, and also students to understand understand the severity of these crashes. Next slide. The ABC quick check, making sure your bike is safe before you do it. Again, quick and easy handout. This is great for bike rodeos if you're looking for something to kind of send home or make as a large poster size to kind of take kids through it. Next slide. And an example of the parent and caregiver letter that can be sent home. All right, so back to the two curriculums. So again, Walk Bike Fun is on bike, outside, walking around. So experiential learning can be done in PE class, after school, community-based organizations. On My Way is short, quick lessons that anyone can do. There's no resources needed, so you can do a video, can be done in class, can be done tabling at an event, can be done in an all-school assembly. So more flexibility with that one, doesn't require training and is easier to deploy. Both can meet the active transportation safety education mandate. So if your school is just doing a great job with Walk Bike Fun, that's going to meet the education mandate and they don't have to do On My Way. Doing both is great because On My Way, those short lessons are going to oh man, I can't think of the word. To help reinforce. Thank you. To help reinforce what they learned in Walk Bike Fun. We know we have to learn things and hear them over and over and over again for them to stick. So that's where the two work great. If you don't have the PE teacher on board or there isn't an opportunity to implement a new curriculum, then On My Way is still building some safety skills with our students. So any format of the two is a great way to go. Next slide.
Sally. Next slide is for questions. So I will pop it back to the differences. If anyone wants to come off mute, otherwise Luke does have in the chat if MDE will be promoting or getting this to schools.
Yeah, great question, Luke. So the way the legislation is written is that this mandate is actually under the purview of the Commissioner of Transportation. So what we are hoping to do in the next month or two is we will be sending it out to all of our school partners. This will include an email to all superintendents, all school transportation directors, and anyone who has participated in our Walk Bike Fun training in the past. We'll also push it out through SHIP. We'll send it to our Regional Development Commission partners and through the SHIP Making It Better newsletter. So we will try and do a big blast to get this information out there. The curriculum did just get wrapped and finished in December, I think. And we just know with the holidays and with current events, it isn't the best time to promote it. So we're going to wait just a little bit longer before we're going to send this out and really get it pushed out. At this point, there is no since MnDOT is the holder of the mandate, we aren't checking in with schools to make sure it's done. We're kind of trying to encourage with a carrot as much as we can before we start to track and nudge partners who aren't doing it. So this is where we could use your help to start getting this into schools before we have to get to that stick approach of getting after those who aren't doing it.
Anyone else have any questions? Reflection? Was On My Way new for you? You kind of heard about it from our communication channels.
And if you are wondering what that communication is going to look like to partners, so if we drop the link for the On My Way e-newsletter, that is different than our Safe Routes newsletter. So any like technical assistance or webinars or things like that will come through that newsletter. Perhaps you get the newsletter and you forward it on to your school partners as a way to be like, to lift it up and say, hey, did you see this? I can help you do it the first year to get it rolling, and then your school can take it from there.
Great. All right, I'm gonna keep us rolling because it's 10:45. I was going to do breakout rooms. If people could do a reaction, if you want to do a breakout room, otherwise we can do a large group discussion on a couple questions. It'd be about a 10-minute breakout room, so I don't know if that's long enough for some of us. So a thumbs up if you want the breakout room. All right, with that, We'll just stay in the bigger group for today. Because we have some examples we want to chat through after that. Let me see if I can copy these questions. What we will chat through this morning then, let me just put it in, unless Kelly, you can paste it in. We'll start with this question. What did you hear that you liked? What questions do you have about either program? And where would there be interest in supporting this implementation? We'll take about five minutes to chat through this together, and then we'll go to the last few slides. Yeah, Andy. Unless that was maybe not.
I was just going to vocalize my question.
Yeah.
You state that the Walk Bike Fun curriculum is also able to be utilized in out of school time programming. If it happens in out of school time, does that actually cover the MDE mandate?
No, because all students have to receive the education. So unless that after school program would reach all students, if it's something they have to go through, that wouldn't. But again, maybe that's the way to get Walk Bike Fun into some part of the school population, and maybe the On My Way is something the school will actually do during the school day. That can work too.
Awesome, thank you.
Other questions?
I have a
Hannah
question.
put-
This is Maria.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Maria from Washington County. I just have a question regarding the walk bike, that program and the bike fleet. Like, is there generally like a is there like a wait list, or is it generally easy to like rent out the fleet for a week or a day, or I mean, what's the process kind of look like?
Yeah, so the best way to do it is send an email. There's the link to request the fleet, or you can just send it right to Angela at bikeamend.org, and she can give you an idea of like how reserved the bike fleet is. So if you're thinking, oh, we have a community festival, it'd be great to have a bike. I bet we can do a community ride and we can do a bike rodeo. Just reach out and see if it's available. There's different times where it's peak level. I would say kind of April and May is when PE teachers want to be outside and riding bikes. So that can be a little bit more challenging, but during the summer months, if you want to be adventurous and hopeful that March would be a great time to be out on bikes, you can certainly reserve it then. But you can also start to think about reserving for the fall too, if it's not going to work for your curriculum this year.
Thank you.
Question in the chat, would community education be an outlet to support this, particular for students who might be homeschooled? Absolutely, Luke. What was that? That was a Luke question, okay. And then I know just with recording, we won't be able to see the chat. So just the other question was it stated that the active transportation safety training is no longer required to be completed within the first few weeks? That is correct. That was removed this last legislative session, and now just needs to be completed within the school year. So it gives a little bit more flexibility. We do know, folks, it's really easy still to do it within the first few weeks because there's that bus training. And if you can just loop that in with the communications, some schools are still sticking to that timeline, but it's not as rigid. Amani, did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Amani from Rice County. I have had some good luck with implementing the Walk Bike Fun curriculum at like some of the summer events that the schools host, and then we also have a kind of safety day that's hosted right at the beginning of the summer. So we've had good luck there. I guess now I'm in the process of trying to implement it more within the schools and with the PE teachers, but I guess it's a little bit more of a struggle than I thought to really kind of get in there. So I guess any tips or tricks when it comes to that. I've just started kind of doing that outreach here. So yes.
Yeah, I think easy tips would be, sharing the website, sharing that the online training, it says 2 hours, but an educator can certainly kind of click through that. I think it's okay to share with them that teachers have to adapt the curriculum to fit within the schedule of their classroom. So if they're like, there's no way I can do 8 separate lessons on biking, we only have PE class once a week, that's okay. The educators can like shrink the curriculum, can adapt it to fit their needs. So maybe sometimes a curriculum, it feels like you have to really do it in bulk. And we do provide some flexibility for our educators to adapt to fit their needs. So maybe that little notion that it's flexible.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Very
then
helpful.
we do have, we can try and help find some volunteers if they want someone to help co-teach it for the first year. Sometimes, it's just everything is harder the first time you do it. You need some extra supports and then you got it from there. So we can also look to do that as well.
Okay. Well, it's very helpful. Thank you.
Is there anyone from SHIP? I think there's several of you on the call right now. Has there anything that has worked for you to partner with schools to integrate that support with Safe Routes to School Walk Bike Fun? If not, from past experience, I was at Dakota County and we often sat on the school wellness committees for each of the schools. And this could be a way to bring that promotion and highlight of this thing is coming down. It really does align with the wellness priorities of active transportation. Could this be something that even the wellness committee could help promote, push out, support the implementation of?
I think the other thing I'll say while anyone wants to type a question or raise a hand, is we talked about how this is a great starting point because it's an easy ask of our school partners. It is another way to lift up the built environment challenges around schools because now we have teachers and students going out and going for a short walk, maybe around the block or going for a bike ride. And that's where teachers or students can start to reflect of like, I don't want to cross that street. It didn't feel comfortable. Or a teacher saying, oh, we almost, the bike lane had a bunch of debris in it, so we had to adjust our route. It's a way to start the school partners thinking about the engineering and that built environment in a different way than saying, what challenges are there to walking and biking around your school? It gets them thinking about it in a different way. So if it feels like it's not a big PSC strategy, it certainly is. And it is a way to get us into the deeper work of safe routes of changing the built environment.
Ready? Any other thoughts or questions? Otherwise, I'll move us along. I really appreciate all of the conversation today. So thank you all for showing up and being attentive. Okay, we just wanted to highlight a few other education examples that schools have and partners have implemented to support walking and biking programming. So the first one is traffic gardens. I'm sure you've heard of it, or maybe you haven't, and this is new, and this is great because we love them. So in the traffic gardens, they are permanent safety courses. Oftentimes it's used in either like an old parking lot that's not used or a tennis court, some type of pavement around the school or in the community. As you can see, they have routes. Sometimes they have signs that you have to stop and so forth. And it really gives the students experiential of how you navigate roads and things without having the car factor to it. So this is kind of that preliminary before getting into a road. You can also have them have that experiential. And one that we really like is when there's new roundabouts in communities. Sometimes there's like, how do you even bike through that? And this would be allowing students to learn how to navigate it, again, without competing with traffic. Another one with education is bike maintenance curriculums and classes. Project Bike Tech is one of the big ones that are around the state, I think nationally. And this is a really great way for middle school and high school students to start to be more engaged with bike education. So they took, say they started early on, 3rd, 4th grade, They got walk, bike fun, education. So now it's what's next. I can drive my bike. Let's make sure I can fix my bike. So if it breaks down, I can still continue on. We alluded to this, but instead of not just helmets, it's a helmet plus approach. We don't want to just promote helmets because then there's that perceived of, oh, you're safe if you have your helmet on. Oh, you're safe if you have your seatbelt on driving. It is important to have on. It helps prevent, it doesn't have as much severity of crashes potentially, but there's a lot of other ways that we can equip our students to be skilled, safe bikers and walkers. And then we just wanted to call out a couple examples of middle school and high school education that's taking place. Some of these are newer for schools to engage in. So transit travel training by mode. So walking and biking, we got that covered within these programs, but thinking through transit, micromobility. We know middle school, high schooler students have more independence of after school, where do you go? How are you going to get there safely? The street harassment guide that we chatted through last week is another education component. And we at MnDOT, our team is thinking through how can we continue to have examples and engage middle school and high school students on transit training. So if your community is interested in this, reach out to us as we have that as a priority going forward. We've had it as a priority, but we are continuing it as a priority. And then the local highlight story today, this was from Grand Rapids area. They received a boost grant to integrate traffic gardens. As you can see here, kiddos are having fun. They're practicing their stops with their arms, you can see, and they integrated this into their summer learning academy. I know they do it all year round, but that's how they provided the opportunity for kids to continue learning biking skills through summer. Okay, call to action. We're gonna get them right at time. Kudos to us. Okay, call to action this week. There's two of them. The first one is regarding walk bike fun. We will drop, I think I have dropped, and we'll send it in the email follow-up as well, but explore who has been trained near you in walk bike fun. We have the list again from 2013. So you can see, oh, there's that teacher. Amani, to your question, I believe it was, you could look and see who within those school districts that you're trying to reach out to has already been trained, and see if you can provide additional support to either revamp the program or see if somebody else in that program or that school would be interested. And then if you haven't, to take part in one of the Walk Bike Fun online curriculum. It'll help you maybe you'll learn something new. We always do. But also then you would be equipped to be able to help if people request, hey, I need a little bit more assistance. Action 1, action 2 is on my way. So signing up for that newsletter, making sure that you get the latest technical assistance trainings and so forth. And then just exploring that website. Is there ways in which we can help promote what is coming? And with that, thank you all for staying on this whole time. Thank you for the engaged conversation today. I will stop recording. We will stay on